Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. I welcome everybody to Bhakti Sangha Jipa conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Keshavanand Prabhuji to enlighten us on topic Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 4th canto, 16th chapter, first verse onwards. Hare Krishna Keshavananda Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Guru Maharaj ki Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for joining and giving your association. We are very fortunate to have you on the call today. Please take over the call, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay. So I think I'll be talking on 4th canto, 16th verse, or 16th chapter, first verse. Maitri Ovacha. Iti Brahvanam Nepatim Gayaka Muni Cholutitaha Tushtu Manasas Tad Bhagamrita Sevya. This is a verse. Anyway, I'll just offer obeisance and then Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 4th canto, 16th chapter, first verse. Maitri Ovacha iti brovanam nipatim gayaka muncha uditaha tushtu manasas tadvag sevaya. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, let's see. The great sage Maitri continued, while King Prithu thus spoke, the humility of his nectarian speeches pleased the reciter much. And again they continued to praise the king highly with exalted prayers, as they had been instructed by the great sages. Here the word Muni Chaudita indicates instructions received from great sages and saintly persons. Although Maharaj Prithu was simply enthroned on the royal seat and was not at that time exhibiting his godly powers, reciters like Suta, the Magad, and the Bandi understood that King Prithu was incarnation of God. To understand that by the instructions given by great sages and learned Brahmins, we have to understand incarnation of God by instructions of authorized persons. We cannot manufacture a God by our own concoctions. As said by Narottam Thakur, Sadhu Shastra Guru, one has to test all spiritual matters according to instructions of saintly persons, scriptures, and spiritual master. Spiritual master is one who follows the instructions of his predecessors, namely the sadhus or saintly persons. One of his spiritual masters should mention anything not mentioned in the authorized scriptures. Ordinary people have to follow instructions of sadhu, shastra, guru. Those statements made in the shastras, those made by bona fide sadhu or guru, cannot differ from one another. Reciters like Sutta and the Maghat were confidentially aware that King Prithu was incarnation of although the king denied such praise because he was not at that time exhibiting his godly qualities, reciters did not stop praising him. Rather, they were very pleased with the king, who, although incarnation of God, was so humble and delightful in his dealings with devotees. In this connection, we may note that previously, 15:21 is for mention that King Prithu was smiling, and one is in a pleasant mood while speaking to the reciters. Thus, we have to learn from the Lord or his incarnation how to become gentle and humble. The king's behavior was very pleasing to the reciters, and consequently the reciters continued their praise and even foretold the king's future activities as they had been instructed by sadhus and the sages. Okay, so I think we'll talk on this verse. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalaka Chakshamitamina Tasmai Shri Guru Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswate Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishay Shunyavadi Pashadeshtavrame Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, so the verse is interesting because there are many interesting instructions in this verse. And Prabhupada rightly comments all those in his purports. The verse says Maitri Ovacha. Of course, this is a discussion between Maitri and Vidur, we all know. And he's continuing the tale of Prithu. In fact, it's coming from Vain, I think, Vain, and then Prithu, we all know. Prithu was a king. We discussed last time. He was first among all the kings. Prathama. He was the best of all the kings. and he reinstated anarchy. At this time, there was complete anarchy because of pain, who was killed by Brahmanas. He brought back the order. He brought back everything, all the devotional uh, atmosphere. Uh, but now here, before I mean to say, before he did all those things, he appeared, and it is said here in this verse, "Iti Brahmanam Nipatim." This is when he has just appeared, and he has not accomplished his feats, extraordinary feats. He has not actually. He's still not revealed his glories. But it is said, "Iti Brahmanam Nipatim." So Prithu Maharaj, he spoke something. He gave a speech, by the way. I mean to say, he was coronated as a king, and a king is supposed to give a introductory speech, and he gave that. And we know in 15th chapter, and Srila Prabhupada says he spoke, and Prabhupada mentions he spoke with he spoke smiling and in a pleasant mood. That's what he did. Tadvag Amrita Sevaya. His Tat means his, Vag means words, Amrit means nectarian, Sevaya means by hearing. So when Tadvag Amrit, his speech, his words was Amrit. Amrit means nectarian. Now, Prabhupada explains what do we mean by nectarian speech. I mean to say, Prabhupada always gives practical bent to all these words. He doesn't keep words ambiguous and impractical. And of course, that's a uniqueness of Prabhupada. So he explains what's the meaning of nectarian speech. Just like when we hear lecture of some devotees and we say, so we say, your lecture was so nice. So what they say, your lecture was so beautiful lecture. What they say. Generally, when people hear lectures and it's nice, so before asking a question, generally devotee says, your lecture was so nice.
Nectarian.
What was that?
Nectarian lecture.
Oh yeah, nectarian. Nectarian lecture. Okay, yeah, nectarian lecture. So what does that mean? What actually that's supposed to mean? So Prabhupada says that means nectarian words means the words have to be in a pleasant mood while speaking, first of all. And Prithu Maharaj was smiling, and of course this is this is I don't know, this is also a little ambiguous because Prithu Maharaj was smiling, he was speaking in a pleasant mood, and that's what that means nectarian speech. But I mean to say it needs more explanation because people can smile, people can be in pleasant mood, but they can deceive you. They can be what do we say, malevolent in their speech. They can be deceivers. So we can't really say in context of Prithu. In the context of Prithu Maharaj, we can't say nectarian speech just refers to this because Prithu is incarnation of God. So what is a nectarian speech? Krishna defines in Bhagavad Gita, by the way. Krishna says Satyam Priyam Hitam Bhakyam Anudvegakaram. Krishna says a nectarian speech is supposed to be truthful. Of course, it's supposed to be truthful. But the whole point is generally true words are bitter. Truth is bitter. Generally, it's like that. But then there's a art of speaking, and a person has to speak truth, but nevertheless, he has to speak truth in a pleasant manner, in a pleasing manner. That's what here it is said. Very pleasing. His words were very pleasing, actually, to the reciters. His words and his behavior. So the whole point is how to speak pleasant words, but at the same time, it should be truth. Now that's the difficult part. Because generally, you speak truth, it's not pleasing. And generally, you speak pleasing words, it's not truth. It's mostly flattery. People tend to compromise with truth to speak in a pleasing manner. But then Krishna says, Prithu had this quality. That's why his words were nectarian. His words were nectarian to sages, actually. That's the whole point. It is not said to the audience, by the way. His words were very pleasing to the Muni. Muni cha uditaha. The whole point is sages are actually praising Prithu for his behavior and for his speech. It is sadhu, and it's big sages out there when he is being coronated, especially at his time, because recently, I mean to say, all the Brahman, these sages came and they actually assassinated King Vain in front of everybody, and they were the people who churned his body and brought Prithu out. So I mean to say, they should be great sages. If you can churn somebody and bring a baby out of that churning, they should have some kind of miraculous powers. And especially incarnation of God is there now. And these sages have become instrumental in bringing incarnation of God on this earth. So these sages should be very exalted people. And when it is said in context of these sages, they felt his words were nectarian and pleasing. Now that means it should be having some gravity. It's not flattery, definitely. These are not foolish people. So when you say his words were pleasing, it has got to be truthful. It has got to have some substance in it. It's not just kids speaking, sweet and nice, soft words. It's nothing like that. It is grave. At the same time that words are presented in such a manner that it is also pleasing to the ears. Just like Sukdev Goswami. Just like this Bhagavatam. The words of Bhagavatam are very pleasing, nectarian. Vivata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. It's full of rasa. Why? Because Sukdev Goswami spoke this Bhagavatam, which is actually mature wisdom of Vedas. It is having a content. It is having a depth. It is having principles of truth, eternal principles of truth. At the same time, Sukdev presented them in such a manner, in such a poetic, let's say, poetic manner, because Bhagavatam is full of alankars, and in such a pleasing manner that people were happy to hear it. So nectarian words, his words were nectarian. That is truth. It should be truthful, be pleasing. At the same time, hitam. It should be beneficial to the people who are hearing him. And Prabhupada says here, although the king denied his praise, the reciters did not stop praising him. King Prithu was speaking in such a manner that it was beneficial for the whole society. Probably he gave a speech and he inspired them, and he inspired that uh, that that well things have gone wrong, and we'll do and we'll set them right, and we'll do this and this and this and this. People were inspired by his charisma and by his by his by his true speech, and they understood that actually he can accomplish this. He's not just speaking. That's the whole point. And that's why they said that Vag Amrita. His words were nectarian to people, especially for brahmanas and sages. They understood he's going to do it. What he's speaking, he'll do it. That's all. He's going to carry it out. So they heard his speech, nectarian speech. So, in fact, I mean to say, if you want to say, Prabhu, your lecture was so nectarian, well, you should. I mean to say, these three factors has to be seen. It's not just. It should not be just interesting and nice, and then that's not really nectarian. These three factors has to be there. There should be content, substance, truth, should be pleasing, and then it should also be what do we say? Beneficial. Now, one of the commentator he comments on this verse. I think Ramanuja he comments that it should be truthful. That means it should be according to scriptures, because there's no truth beside scriptures. Whatever you speak from your mind, that's not truth. That's either false or that's a relative truth. And relative truth is ultimately false because it's relative. In some conditions it's true, in some conditions it's not true. So scriptures gives absolute truth, which is true in all conditions, all place, all time. That is why it's called Sanatan Dharma, Sanatan Shiksha. So the speech should be true. True, that means it should be according to scriptures. The speech should be pleasing, and that means what? And that means it should be according to previous authorities, just like Prabhupada says. Prabhupada says here that Sadhu Guru Shastra. Now the words should be according to previous authorities, and then they are pleasing. Otherwise, you speak something even from scriptures, but if it is contradicting parampara, it's not really pleasing to the people, because then there is a smell of false ego, and that's not pleasing to saints. It's not pleasing. That's the most disgusting thing for any saint, false ego. So they'll simply reject it. The smell of humility, that's pleasing to saints. And Prabhupada brings this point. The king denied his praise because he didn't, at the time, he was not exhibiting his qualities, godly qualities. He was humble. He was incarnation of God, and yet he was so humble. Now, humble means he was speaking according to previous authorities. He was not concocting something. So Priya means pleasing. The word should be pleasing means it's according to previous authorities, and then it becomes pleasing. Just like if I give a lecture and I say, okay, Prabhupada said this, then people are so happy, all the devotees. And if I say, okay, this is like this, and I don't quote Prabhupada, I don't quote any authority, people will not like it. People will say, come on, he's so egoistic. They'll not like it. So that's Priyam. And beneficial means that the words should actually lead. The speech should help the person to achieve the aim of life, that is liberation or love of God. Otherwise, it's useless. You might speak something and it's so nice and it's true according to scriptures. You might quote some stories, and that those stories might be from previous, some sage might have quoted, but there are so many things in scriptures. But then it's not helping you to achieve love of God and liberation. What's the use of it? There are so many things in scriptures. So then it's not beneficial, even though it is true and pleasing, even though it is according to scriptures and according to previous authorities, it's not beneficial. So that's the whole point, the goal. And if you really link it properly, these three things are sambandha vidya prayojan. You see the point there. Satya means according to scriptures, that's sambandh. What's the truth? What's the reality? What your speech has to do with this word, with God, with the situation, that's sambandh. Priya means according to previous authorities. Okay, what's the process? How do you achieve what you're saying? I mean, you are saying, but then it's theory if you're simply bragging. So in your speech, Prithu Maharaj's speech carried a definite, he was confident of the process, how he will achieve what he said. That is Priyam. Then it becomes Priya, isn't it? To hear that's Abhiday. And Hitam means Prayojan. Okay, good. So goal. So any speech which is nectarian, or any speech which you have to make it nectarian, should contain all these three: Sambandh, Abhiday, Prayojan. Satyam, Priyam, Hitam. Scriptures, previous authorities, and the goal. That's how it goes. So this is nectarian speech, and Prithu Maharaj's speech had all these things. And that's why Prabhupada says, Prabhupada mentions this in his purport. Prabhupada mentions this, of course, but then you should have, I mean to say Prabhupada mentions, but if you don't read the purport properly, you will not be able to link all these things together. But it's there. Sadhguru Shastra is there, you see. Priyam. And then Satyam, according to scriptures, it is there. And then Hitam. And then leading to the goal of life, it's there. So that's why these sages were so pleased, and they were praising him. Tushtuvas, it is said, they were perfectly satisfied. Tushtuvas. Tusht means, tushtuvus means Tushtu means, it comes from the word tusht. Tusht means santusht. They were completely satisfied because his speech was complete. You see the point? Satisfaction means completion. If your job is not complete, you are not satisfied, isn't it? Any incomplete thing which will not give you satisfaction. They are satisfied because his speech was complete in all respects. It was practical, it had a process, it had a goal, it had truth, and and they were so pleased by hearing this. Uh, and they praised him. Tushta manas, their whole mind, their mind was pleased. Tushtus, and because they were pleased, Prabhupada says this, because they were pleased, they were praising the king. Now that's the whole point. If we stick to right speech and right conduct, everybody will praise us. But the whole problem is very difficult to stick to right speech and right conduct. It's not easy, at least in this world which is full of jugglery and so much problems. We are generally tempted uh, to to actually play with words, to hide truth, or maybe to just concoct something, or maybe just speak for selfish motives and just to protect ourselves. It's not easy to actually. That's why Krishna says this: austerities of speech, satyam priyamitam. This is an austerity. Krishna says. Krishna doesn't say this is. Krishna said this is an art, but at the same time, he doesn't simply say it's an art of speaking. He says it's an austerity of speech. You need to actually develop this art, but this art is not just some materialistic skill which you can practice. It's an austerity which actually comes with sacrifice. You have to sacrifice. Austerity means sacrifice, by the way, in one sense. So you have to sacrifice your false ego, and you have to associate with saints, and you have to be well versed in scriptures and the opinions of previous authorities, and then you have to be actually very very well versed with the goal of life. You have to be fixed in the goal of life yourself, and then this nectarian speech will be able to speak. So they were very pleased by this, and because they were pleased, they were praising him. Tushtuvis means they were actually praising him. Now this is the method. If you want to be praised, this is the method. I mean, people want to be praised, isn't it? But the whole point isn't Kali. People want to be praised for nothing. That's the whole point. They don't want to do anything, and yet they want to be praised. Okay, well, to want to be praised, that's bad. But the whole point is, it's super bad. It's worst when you want to be praised without any qualification. That's actually madness. That's not bad. That's why people are mad, isn't it? Okay, you want people should praise you. Okay, good. But the whole point is, what quality do you have? Nothing. Then why at all do you have this kind of desire? First of all, and that is called madness, isn't it? That's called madness. So here Prithu is having now Prithu. They were praising him, but Prithu was denying it. Prabhupada says. He was actually denying that they should not praise, but still they kept on praising him because they were satisfied. Now this word satisfaction is a very technical word. Now why this word is raised here? Satisfaction. So why this word satisfaction is raised here? Now you see the point when you're reading Bhagavatam. First point in mind is actually if anybody wants to read Bhagavatam, the first thing in mind should be that the words do not carry obvious meaning. These words which are chosen by Vyasadeva, they are chosen in his maturity. Remember that. And maturity means these words carry a lot of substance and a deep meaning. You see the point there? Because the words of Bhagavatam in itself are nectarian, it should have some eternal principles of truth. So nectarian speech is not simply nectarian. Prabhupada explains, satisfaction of mind is not just satisfaction of mind. There is something deep in it. Now, why this word satisfaction is used? Because you see, Prabhupada is raising the point of Sadhu Guru Shastra and so many things. So, Manu Samhita, it says that any truth which has to be, what do we say, validated. Truth has to be validated. That comes in philosophy. Validation of truth. How do we know that knowledge is knowledge? That's actually called epistemology. How do we know that truth is truth? How do we validate that truth? What are the evidences? You need evidence to validate the truth, isn't it? A person can say it's true, but then what are the evidence? Prithu Maharaj can say something, but then what's the evidence? That's the whole point. What's the evidence that he's saying true? Well, because he's the incarnation of God, well, it's not yet proved that he's the incarnation of God. Prabhupada says at that time he was not exhibiting his godly qualities. Okay, why he was saying true truth? Because sages acknowledged it. Well, okay, that might be the thing, but then those sages might be his employed people or his flatterers. Who knows what's happening? So there's a system to validate truth, an objective system. Otherwise, nobody can understand what's true, and that's given by Manu Samhita. Manu, he says, how do you recognize what is dharma and what is adharma? Because dharma can be concocted. That's why Bhagavatam begins with dharma projita karita bhadra. Reject, abandon all cheating dharmas. But the question is, how do you reject them? How do you identify them? So there are 5 evidences to know what is right and what is wrong. What is dharma, what is adharma? What is truth and what is untrue? What is vastavam, what is avastavam? We have Bhagavatam begins Vedam vastavam vastu atva. So what are those? The first is Shruti, Vedas. I think it comes in second chapter of Manasamhita. I think 10th verse something. So Shruti, Vedas, whatever speech is there, it should be according to Vedic principles. The second is Smriti. Smriti means Dharma Shastras. There has to be evidences from Dharma Shastras and Puranas also. Now why Dharma Shastras? Shruti means principles. Smriti means historical accounts, cases. There has to be some cases to back up your principle, isn't it? Just like in law, I mean to say. A judge might pass some verdict, but then he will say, okay, fine, I'm passing this verdict because this is the case which happened this year, and that verdict was passed, that verdict was passed, and according to that, we are passing this verdict, isn't it? So there has to be a historical account that king did that thing, and he passed this judgment, and that king, which happened the same thing with him, and he did this. So that's why we are actually doing this, and that becomes dharma. So historical accounts, that is in dharma, Puranas and Smritis. So that's second evidence. And the third evidence is Tadashilam, that is scholars, philosophers, people who are actually continuously reading them, meditating on them. You have to consult them whether our opinion is correct or not. Scholars. And then the fifth thing is sadhus. Sadhus means tad acharana. That fourth is sadhus. Sadhus means people who are actually practicing those principles. Philosophers are simply doing some research. They're like let's say theological professors. They might not be really practicing, but sadhus means people who are working on the practical field, or you might say theoretical physicist and experimental physicist. Let's say like that. Theoretical scientist and experimental scientist. So you need both of them, isn't it? You need theory and you need experiment to prove something. So you need philosophers, and then you need sadhus who are practicing. That means Vaishnavas. That is Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. Brahmanas, they're in theory, and Vaishnavas, they're putting the theory in practice. So fourth evidence, and the fifth evidence is, now this is the whole point. Fifth evidence is santushti, satisfaction. That's the fifth which is coming here. Tushta manas. That's why they are saying their minds were satisfied. That means they got evidence that this guy, whoever he is. Okay, fine. He's incarnation of God, but it's not yet proved. Of course, they can see by their divine eyes, but anyway, objectively, this person, he is speaking true. It's according to scriptures, it's according to previous authorities, it's according to people who are practicing. He's confident. And the whole point is, after hearing his speech, we are so satisfied and we are feeling. Now, satisfaction means confidence and conviction. Now, they developed a confidence. This person can take us out of this whole mess which Wayne has created. This whole mess of anarchy. It was complete anarchy. The whole world was in mess, actually. And then he was killed. There's no king. They were confident and they were convinced. They were not only confident, but they were convinced that this he can do. And that's satisfaction. And that is why they actually praised him. Because they got all the 5 evidences that he is the chosen person. Now, so satisfaction is not a simple term. That's why this Vyasadev, he uses this word satisfaction. He could have simply used other words. He could have said because they were pleased in mind, or he could have said because they were happy, or he could have said because they felt divine bliss, something like this. But he specifically uses word tushta because this tushta is used in Manu Samhita in a very technical sense. Krishna also uses in Bhagavad Gita. Yam ladvana chaparam labham mannate nadivamrata. Krishna defines that a liberated soul, how do you understand who is a liberated soul? How does a liberated soul understand that he is a liberated soul? First he has to be convinced within himself. So Krishna says when after attaining his goal, he doesn't want to attain anything else. That means he's satisfied. Krishna brings this point of satisfaction. Only by this satisfaction we can understand whether we are right or wrong, whether we are right, true dharma, whether it's dharma or dharma. Now the whole point is satisfaction is the 5th evidence. Keep in mind, it's not the first, because you can equally take drugs and you can be satisfied. But that's not the whole point. That is why it is said, iti brova. That is why Prabhupada brings this point of tad vag amrita, nectarian speech. Because his speech was nectarian, that's why they were satisfied. Now the nectarian, I explained, nectarian means satyam priyamitam. All those factors were there in his speech. And then they were satisfied, the 5th evidence, and they were said, okay, sealed. He's the king. Fine. We'll just coronate him. I mean to say, sages can't just coronate king here. They also have to take in confidence whole kingdom. It's not that they can do anything. People can revolt if they do something with their own mind. It's not a simple thing. I mean to say, he's the king of the whole world. And the sages came from somewhere and they did a meeting at the time and they assassinated Vayne. And now they churned him and this person is brought out. And how does anybody know he's incarnation of God? He didn't do anything and they want to coronate him. It was a serious business, and so they have to take the whole kingdom into confidence. If you really think politically how it goes, it's not easy. People can simply revolt. What the hell, you killed somebody, and I want to coronate somebody by your own mind. That means you are becoming a tyrant. You want to control everything. You let's say, what's that bastard? What's that? People can simply say you are nonsense, rishis. Your whole mind is corrupted. You want to take the whole power. It was a very sensitive. I mean, see, the point is, Bhagavatam is not just stories. That's the whole point. And Prabhupada never depicted them as stories. Prabhupada always took Bhagavatam in a very practical sense. There is something to learn at every step. And that is why Prabhupada says Bhagavatam is a solution to all problems of this world. Prabhupada says in his purports again and again, all problems of this world. It's not just devotion. All problems. And that's how this Bhagavatam is packed. That's why Vyasadev wrote this book in maturity. He was not a stupid person to just speak some stories or some morals. That's it. He wrote in his maturity after writing Vedas and Mahabharata, and he thought, how to pack all these principles in one book. Because people don't have time, people are less intelligent. And at the same time, those principles should help people to attain devotion and not to actually deviate from devotion. It was a very serious business for Vyasadeva when he did this. And that's why he chose every word. In fact, when Prabhupada was writing pop word to word meaning, we know that Prabhupada many times he took 3 days to actually think what word he should use. In his purports, in his word to word meaning, he was just thinking because Prabhupada knew his books would actually go down in the history for next 10,000 years. And here Vyasadeva, his books are going down in the history for eternity. So why would he choose words very carefully? So when he's saying nectarian speech, it is very technical. When he's saying satisfaction, it's very technical. And Prabhupada gives hints in his purports, but then of course you need somebody to actually take it out. So tushta manas, that's this word, tushta manas. The tushta manas means fifth evidence. And that is why Prabhupada says they were so satisfied by his speech, by his nectarian speech. So nectarian speech had 4 evidences, and the 5th evidences was within them. Satisfaction, tushta manas. And here it was sealed that he is the king. Now the whole point is Gayaka Muni cha Uditaha. So here this said as they had been instructed by the sages. So they were actually reciting prayers for the king. They were actually praising him according to Gayak means they were singing. Now here again singing doesn't mean really singing. I mean to say they don't have drums and guitar, and this is not the word. Singing doesn't mean singing. Gayak means basically singing, literal. But Prabhupada translates as reciters. They were reciting the praises. So actually this Gayak word is very technical word. Singing, when we say in with scriptures, doesn't really mean in literal sense singing always. It also means speaking in a very what do we say, indirect and very deep manner. That's called singing. And that's why it is said every word is a song in Golok. Now what do you mean by that? They're always taking drums and gongs, and how do you understand that? And Krishna is sometimes talking normally with Yashoda, so then why everybody is a song? Because singing means philosophy. In scriptures, song and poetry means philosophy. Any prose, any word which carries philosophy, it is called poem. In fact, that's the difference between a poem and prose. A prose has a meaning. Of course, a prose can also be philosophy. But a poem has many philosophical points. A prose has one philosophical point, or one theme. A prose must have one theme. Okay, one paragraph, one article, one theme, one message. Poem has many themes, many messages at the same time. That's why it is poem. That is called singing. That's why Upanishads is called poem. Vedas are called poem. They are called suktas and sutras. Actually, suktas, which are to be sung. So it's not necessary that they should have meter. It's not necessary that they should have a rhyme. But in a poem, what makes a poem is it should have that thing, whatever it is, it should have many layers of meanings at the same time by the same word. That's called multi-layered philosophy. That is a poem. That is why singing, they were reciting his praises. That means they were speaking philosophy. In a philosophical manner, they were praising him. It was not a simple song they were making. I mean to say, they were not singing, "Oh Prithu, you are so nice. Oh Prithu, you are so nice. Oh Prithu, you are so great. Oh Prithu, you are so great." Whatever it is, these are not crazy song. They were speaking philosophy. And what they were speaking, we don't know that. Muni Chaudita. Now you see, how do we know they were speaking philosophy? Because Muni Chaudita. Muni means these reciters were being guided by Munis. Chaudita means instructed or guided or inspired. So Muni means a philosopher, by the way, literally. It is not Rishi Chaudita. It's Muni Chaudita. So these reciters, they were consulting Munis, and Munis were actually instructing them how to praise him. Now he's a king. I mean, he's a king, and they could understand he's a godly person, and many people are there, at the time of coronation, everybody's hearing, so how to praise him so that people accept him also. There are so many political ramifications there, philosophical ramifications, and they have to keep all those things in mind and then choose words and then praise him. It is a very sensitive issue, I mean to say. And this is, you see all these things. If you want to understand, you have to imagine yourself at that scene, what's happening there. Otherwise, you will not be able to understand why I'm speaking, what I'm speaking. Now there are thousands of people. There are Prithu is there. There's some handful of sages, and they have to praise him. So Gayak Muni Chaudita iti Bruvanam Nipittam. So when Prithu spoke like this, they praised, and then we'll continue afterwards. Somebody can continue. What reciters said, that's also recorded here. Text 2, text 3, and whatever, their whole recitation is there. And if you read the recitation, you will understand it's full of religious principles, it's full of philosophy, it's full of practical and I mean to say political considerations. It's there, but of course you have to read it properly. That's why Bhagavat also is actually recording the recitation of those reciters to help us understand actually how to glorify a great person. And how to glorify a great person, we have to understand that according to his mood and according to the time, place, circumstance. So that's what the verse is. I'll just finish it. Done. You all can go and read it. Is there any questions or comments? I like to take questions and comments because I don't want to extend this class now unnecessarily. Okay, is there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so
Hare
much
Krishna.
for the beautiful class. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna, is there anybody having any questions or any realizations?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Oh, no. Okay.
No,
Thanks.
go ahead, Mataji. Go ahead.
No, Mataji, go ahead. I'll talk later.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, I will go then. Yeah, this point you're making that every every word is a song or something like that. You know, it's not. You're saying that it's not the way we might take it literally. You know, that people are singing like when Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj are conversing. It's not necessarily that they are singing to each other. And in fact, they're probably, nothing musical might actually be going on. So the way I understood you is that when they speak to each other, some deep philosophical points are in that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole
And
point.
so two things. One is, why would something like that be called a song? That's one thing. And the other thing is, would you please give an example of such a thing?
Okay, yeah, I mean to say, you see the point. Our whole training, our whole understanding of song is very different, right from whatever we learn. But if you really ask any poet, or if you're really trained in poetry, and if you read poetry all around the world, Chinese, especially Chinese poetry, if you read, it will not look as a poem. Just like, for example, haiku. What's that? There's a tradition of writing Chinese poetry. It's called haiku or haiku something. And
You mean it doesn't look like poetry because there's no rhyme? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. There's no rhyme there, and you will think this is crazy. It's not song. And of course, in Chinese poetry, how many lines are there in a poetry? One. How many words? One word, and that's a poem. And it's a very famous style of writing poem. And I used to think, what's happening? Then I read this book of poetry, and what I found that all poets are unanimous in one thing. What makes poetry poetry? It's not rhyme. It's not words. It's not syntax. It is the semantics in the sentence, and not just semantics, but the. I mean, it's not also arrangement of words. It's not actually also the meter there. What makes poetry is a various layered of meanings, which is actually not just in one sentence, which is actually hidden in one word. Now, for example, I'll give you example. For example, if I say uh, that uh, that girl, okay, that sun is red. And now, okay, it's a simple sentence, but actually it's a poetry because this sentence can have many meanings. For example, the sun is red. Now, sun can also refer to your child. He's my son. He's my moon. You can say like that. So, and red means he's very he's very lovable because red word is always actually linked with passion. Red. Red is always linked with passion and love and lust. That's red. The sun is red can also refer to my child is very valuable. That one sentence, or sun is red can, of course, literal sense, if sun is red, it refers to dawn. When I say sun is literally red. Or it can also refer to the sun is red. That means the sun is furious and in anger. That sun, when the sun is in anger, that sun, the sun. So the sun can mean a dynasty. Sun also refers to dynasty. The king, actually Egyptian kings were called Sun, Ra. They were the whole term was Ra there. They were called Sun in the Egyptian kings. So when we say sun is red, that means the king of Egypt that's furious about something. You see, one sentence can have many layers of meanings. Now which meaning does the author intend? Now, if you ask a poet, so if you ask a person who has written a prose, who is writing an article, he might say, okay, for me this sentence means Egyptian king. Or somebody may says, okay, for me this sentence refers to literally to dawn. For poet, if you ask, he says, for me this sentence has all three meanings simultaneously. Now that's called song, and that's called poetry.
You said, no, can you make that distinction again? You said for the poet, it would mean what? I didn't catch the words.
What's that?
You said you were distinguishing between somebody who writes prose and somebody who writes poetry just now.
The technical word is the poet has parokshuvad, many layered of meanings. Many layered of meanings in one sentence or one word simultaneously.
But that might not be true for somebody who is writing prose. Is that the distinction?
Yeah. For prose, it is just one meaning in one sentence. He's carrying one theme, but poetry doesn't go like that. So that's the whole point. So that is poetry. So Vedas and Upanishads, they are poetry, and that is why if you read Vedas and Upanishads, every word has many meanings simultaneously. That is why they are very deep. And that is why Gita is poetry. Gita means song, isn't it? So why is it song? Because every verse of Bhagavad Gita has at least 1,000 meanings simultaneously. At least. That's why it's called a song. It's not called a song because we sing it with guitar or piano. It's not like that. So it's a very technical term. In scripture, when it's called song, it's very technical. So when Krishna speaks in Golok, he speaks many meanings in one word. In one word, he gives. Krishna speaks one sentence, and that sentence is understood by gopis. It's the same sentence understood by father, mother. Same sentence is understood by friends. The same sentence is also heard by cows. But all understand different meanings by the same sentence.
Yeah.
That's that is why every word is a song.
I'm curious about where. I mean, this makes sense to me, but I was just curious where you got this understanding that, every word of the song does not refer to something musical.
I mean to say this is all in scriptures, all in I mean to say, if you read commentaries of acharyas, and if you read linguistics, if you read poetry, Natya Shastra, it is there. Everybody knows this. I mean to say, people who have read, they know this is like this. That's it's.
Yeah, very, very interesting point. Very fascinating point. I just have one other question. It's basically asking you to repeat or to review. You are giving, I think, 5 criteria for something being pleasing, you know? And so,
For truth, for determining what is right, what is wrong, isn't it? That's it.
no, can you repeat? Because somehow the sound quality isn't great. Can you just repeat that again?
No. First, you have to repeat the question. I get it. Since there's some.
Oh. I was wondering if you could repeat the criteria for what makes something pleasing or truthful, you know. Like, for example, you were saying, I think, one criterion is that it should promote, I guess, self-realization. Another criterion, it should be truth. It shouldn't be relative truth. It should be absolute truth.
No, you see the point. First I told, how do you understand the speech is nectarian? So the criteria is it should be satyam priyam hitam. It should be truthful, it should be pleasing, it should be beneficial. But then how do you know what is truth? That should be according to scriptures. How do you know what is pleasing? It should be
Because I'm trying to write down. How do you know it's truthful? It should be according to scriptures.
Yeah, and how do you know? And how do you know it's pleasing? So it should be according to previous authorities. Then it becomes pleasing. And what makes anything beneficial? How do you know it's beneficial? When those words are helping you to attain your goal of life, that is liberation or love of God, then it's beneficial. Otherwise, what's the use of those things? That's how it goes.
Okay. During your speech, there was something that had 5 categories to it. Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, fine. Yeah. I mean, so I was saying, how do you know that you are right or wrong? How do you know that you are having dharma or adharma? Isn't it? How do you know that truth is truth? That's the whole point. So you should have 5 evidences for that. That is scriptures, Vedas. That thing, whatever you're speaking, whatever you are doing, should be according to scriptures. Vedas first. Second, it should be according to Puranas. That is history. Some kind of historical account should be there. Some sage should have done that or spoken that, or king should have done that. So that is Puranas or Smritis, that's called. And the third is so it should also match with opinions of scholars, of philosophers. And the fourth is it should be according to people, to actually people like for sadhus. Whatever you're doing, it should be also be recommended by sadhus who are actually practicing what is written in the scriptures. And the fifth is satisfaction of mind, which is mentioned in this class.
And you had elaborated on what is satisfying. Satisfying, you said, meant what?
Oh yeah, satisfaction means confidence and conviction.
Well, confidence and conviction, are those two not like the same?
No, because sometimes you see, actually it's not the same. It's a good question, because you know what? Okay, I'll give you an example. Now suppose some boy comes to me and he says, I want to become celibate. I don't want to marry. I want to become brahmachari. So then he says, well, I've read Prabhupada books, I've read everything, and I want to become brahmachari. I'm actually convinced. So then
he wants to become brahmachari.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
So he has read all the books of Prabhupada and he's convinced according to scriptures, isn't it? But the whole point is, even though he's convinced, he will not have confidence to take that step if he's simply alone. And we have seen that. Many people who are convinced that, yes, I don't have to marry, but they can't take a step to actually leave their home and become brahmachari.
So, okay, so that means they don't have the inner strength.
Yeah, inner strength, that confidence. So when they go to some other brahmachari, they will say, "Come on, I've done, and you can also do it." And now what they're giving is not conviction; they're giving confidence. That strength that you can do. So they are very two different things: conviction and confidence. So that is the whole point. Conviction you can get through scriptures, but not confidence. Confidence you get sadhus.
Otherwise, it's like the difference between knowledge and detachment. You might know something.
Yeah, almost like that. So without sadhus, you might be convinced, super convinced, and okay, fine, all scriptures, quotations, everything, but you don't have a confidence to do that thing. That is given by sadhus. Prabhupada gave confidence, isn't it?
That's what I'm wondering though. How can somebody external to you give you that confidence?
Yeah, how can they do that? Because confidence is contagious. It's like that. It goes, I mean, if you have confidence, it will transmit. That is the nature of confidence. That's the nature of enthusiasm. It just passes on from person to person. That's how it goes.
Okay, I keep saying this is the last thing, but this is the last thing. You said that truth will be in accordance with both philosophers and sadhus. And so what's the distinction between those two?
So actually, philosophers are theoretical munis. They are munis. They are theoretical. They are reading.
Okay.
And sadhus are practically on the field. They are practicing on the field.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhu. This is very wonderful as usual.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I have a question. Like, if someone is asking, if we give them Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, if we quote from Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, they say that, like, what if then, like, I have heard a lot of people saying that what you follow, how do you say that what you follow as Bhagavad Gita is the true Bhagavad Gita? How do you authenticate that it is the true scripture? So sometimes I get stuck to answer this question to them. So how to answer this question, Prabhuji, in a more rational and logical way?
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes people say you're quoting Bhagavad Gita. How do you know that Bhagavad Gita is in itself true, isn't it? That's the whole question. I mean, it can be fourth scripture or written by somebody or something. But yeah, I mean to say, you see, the first, there are many approaches to this answer, but the whole point is the first thing is the authenticity of any book is actually judged by two things always. I mean this way, if you go to a store and if you pick up any book, the first thing you see is the author, and the next thing you see is the contents of the book, isn't it? The table of content, and also you flip some pages and you read something, and then you can make out that this book is really having some substance, or it is just superficial by reading some paragraphs here and there. And that's what we do, and that's why then we think, okay, this is a good book, and this is authentic book. I have to buy this. So it's the same thing here. I mean to say, first you see the author of this book, and the author of this book is, I mean to say, the author of this book is Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva is the author, of course, and the speaker is God, Sri Bhagavan Vajra. And Vyasadeva is the author, but I mean to say, now Vyasadeva as an author, it is a very big thing, because Because this same Vyasadeva, and I have to explain, the same Vyasadeva, he has authored Vedas, he has authored Puranas, he has authored Smritis, he has authored Shrutis, he has authored Upapuranas, he has authored Mahabharata, he has authored Bhagavatam, he has authored Gita. He's not a simple author. And at the same time, scripture says he's a literal incarnation of God. So it gives a lot of authenticity to the book. He's not some guru who has just come from somewhere and he's writing something. And of course, Vyasadeva is also Mahajan. He's accepted by all authorities. Now, first thing. Second thing is, okay, you open the book and you read the words here and there, some verses, and then you will find just by reading those verses that these verses are actually in itself marvelous. If anybody with an open mind reads Bhagavad Gita, any verse, he will find that the verses of Bhagavad Gita are actually carrying the principles of life. Simple and it's deep. No, I mean to say, any philosopher, Western philosopher, Indian, okay, fine, but any Western philosopher who has read Bhagavad Gita in history, any one of them, so you can take Nietzsche, you can take Schopenhauer, you can take any one of them, any political person, like Prabhupada mentions at the back of Bhagavad Gita, Emerson, and also Schwabener, many missionaries who came to India. Anybody who read, it's impossible for them to not be impressed by that book. And that's why in history, all of them, politicians, writers, and activists, and also philosophers, everybody has praised Bhagavad Gita without a doubt. So this means that this book is having a lot of it is having gravity, and it is a manual of life. It is having substance. It is having principles of life. So that also gives authenticity to the book, and people have followed it. People who have followed it, they have actually helped that in their life. So we can tell him, well, by these two things, we can understand that this book is actually important, even if you don't accept it is sent by God or somebody, although the speaker is God, Krishna. Even if you don't accept it, still this book is widely accepted, widely read, and it has helped people throughout ages. Just because of its author and people who have read these paragraphs and people who have praised this book. Now, this is the first thing we can tell him. Even if you don't accept it as a book which is revealed, isn't it? So it is in itself. You will know the authenticity of the book when you read it. That's the whole point. When you read this book, then you will understand. And so we can tell him like that. And then, of course, we can continue the argument. And then, of course, the whole point which you were telling, which we know about Sabat Parampara, is handed over through Parampara from God to his whatever you know this argument. And that's why we know that it is revealed. And many of the acharyas, past acharyas, they have accepted it as it is. They have also commented on it. There is no acharyas which have not commented on Bhagavad Gita. And the system of giving commentary preserves its authenticity and also limits any corruption in the verses. So there is no verse added, there is no verse removed. 5,000 years back it was spoken by Krishna. It's the same Gita. How do we know that? Through commentaries, which were written by acharyas at different points of time. And they all have the same verses in those commentaries. So like that, we can tell them. And I think this convinces them. And of course you can also say that if you read Gita properly, it has philosophy, it has science, it has history, it has economics hidden in those verses. So you can tell them, why don't you take advantage of this book? Such a nice book. This is small, 700 verses.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So my question is, Prabhu, I just want some recommendations for daily practice of sadhana. So I know that we have to chant the minimum rounds and all that, but apart from that, like Tulsi Puja, Kunti prayers, any other suggestions, Prabhuji, to include in the daily routine?
Well, I mean to say, I I mean to say, I just want to ask you one thing. I mean to say, uh, you are of course you initiated, or I don't know. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I'm not initiated.
Okay, okay, but you're chanting
But I'd
16
like to
rounds.
know both for the initiating and initiated devotees and non-initiated. I mean, it's okay if we can actually look at the goal for the initiated devotees as such.
Acha, acha. Okay. Anyway, I mean to say, it's dance. Anyway, it's anyway you can do, or initiated devotees can do, non-initiated, whatever it is. The whole point is the most important thing. You have heard many things. The chanting, you have to chant 16 rounds daily, of course, for X and this and that, offer prasadam. But the whole point is one thing you can add. Or I mean to say, you and anybody else, or devotees, initiated, non-initiated. One thing we can add is saying prayers from Bhagavatam, offering prayers from Bhagavatam to Krishna. That's a very powerful thing. In the evening,
Prayers?
any prayer. So I mean to say, there are Kunti prayers. There are prayers of Gajendra. There are prayers of gopis, and then there are prayers of, let's say, of Devahuti, and then there are prayers of Bhishma, and what else? And then there are prayers of Bhakta Prahlad, prayers of Dhruva, prayers of, I mean, Bhagavatam is full of prayers. There are prayers of Prachetas. So you find those prayers and actually offer them to God daily. And it's not necessary to actually really sit in front of altar. You can sit in front of altar and offer, or you can sit in your room and just offer to God for His pleasure. That's a very powerful sadhana there. This one thing you can add, and of course, the second thing you can add in sadhana is um, preaching to yourself. That's one thing we generally forget. So probably you can give a lecture to yourself, 15 minutes. Okay, so a lecture to yourself. That's very important. I mean to say, in that lecture, you have to really lecture yourself. That, see, you need to improve in this. You are like this. You're like this, and this is a problem, and this is how the solution. Krishna is like this, and whatever it is. So like a teacher, you have to instruct yourself, and that is a good practice to do. If these two things you can do, I think it'll help you a lot in daily sadhana. Of course, and besides that, read Srila Prabhupada books daily. That's must. Something you should be reading daily, at least in morning or evening, and then meditate on what Prabhupada says. Of course, you see, the whole trick of reading Prabhupada book is, we have to keep in mind Prabhupada is an acharya. He's a practical person. Whatever Prabhupada is writing, it comes down to practicality. So we have to connect it with practical word. Just like this lecture I gave, I connected it with practical word and practical problems of this word. And if we can do that through Prabhupada purports, that is real justification of Prabhupada purports. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense, and we'll not learn anything in life. So that you can read and then meditate on that. Try to make some points. If these things you can do, it will help you a lot.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we can finish here. It's already. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a beautiful class and nice question answer session. If there are no more questions, we can end the call here by reciting Vanchakalpa. Vanchakalpa taropyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Ananta Koti Vaishnavya ki jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Please praise Keshavananda Prabhuji ki jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
This session is no longer being recorded.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.